So I have my pattern with this lovely draped top, but it has a round neckline. I would prefer to make it with a V neckline. So what do? You would go and buy a second pattern with a V neckline and somehow try to mash the two together. Yeah? Well, no. Today's video is how to change the shape of a neckline. It's a quick and easy pattern hack. Here is my front pattern piece with the round neckline. So if you want to keep the original pattern intact, you may want to make it with a round neckline sometime later. What I've done is I've traced off this pattern piece as it is with the round neckline, and I'm going to draw my pattern adjustments onto the second pattern. So what I'd like to do is turn this round neck into a slightly lowered V-neck. Now I'm not going to make it wider for the reason that would mean I would have to change the back, and then it all starts getting a bit complicated. Well, not really, but it's out with the remit of this video. If you'd like to know more about facings, then why not come along to my course, Better Dressmaking, because we do lots of pattern hacks, lots of fitting tips, and it's a really good clothes making techniques course. So I've decided that I'm going to maintain this slight curve of this outer edge, but I want it a little lower and more like a V. So I've got my very handy dressmaker's curved ruler tool here, and I'm going to position it. I can actually fit it along into this curve, and I'm going to decide, I'll use my red pencil. I want the new neckline to be there. So if you're not sure how low to go, then measure something you have already that you're happy with the length on the neckline, and use that measurement from the shoulder. So I'm just going to change this line here. I'm going to extend this line down and meet at the centre front. So that will be my new neckline. Now remember, this already includes seam allowance. So your seam allowance for this pattern, it's 1.5 centimetres or 15 millimetres, which should be about there. So I don't need to add any more seam allowance on, but you need to remember to take that into account when you're working how low you want this, because the finished garment will be about there. So remember to add on allowance for it being a little bit lower. Right, now I want to do a facing. So a facing is a strip of fabric that sits on the inside of usually a neckline or an armhole, or sometimes a waistband, to strengthen and to help keep the garment hold its shape. So the facing will echo this shape, but be a lot narrower. Now facings are usually about between 5 and 8 centimetres wide. So let's go for 6. So let me draw on the outer edge of my facing. So the facing will echo the shape here. That's going to keep the shoulder shape. So I'm just going to dot it in just now. Now I'm using 6 centimetres. Bearing in mind we're going to be losing 15 millimetres off this edge here once we sew this neckline. This edge is going to be loose inside the garment. Nothing gets attached to this edge, so we don't need to add seam allowance onto this bit. Now I'm coming over onto my new neckline shape. And just echoing right the way down. So the facing needs to be the same width all the way round. So once I've got my measurements done, I'm going to go back in with the edge of my curved ruler. Find a curve that matches this bit. Now you may not find one section of the curve which matches the whole lot. You may have to move your ruler. So I can draw this bit in. Then it changes slightly. It tilts. So I can match that bit up to there. And notice I'm smoothing the edges so there's no harsh intersections between the two lines. I've blended them in. And blending this into here. Right, so that's my facing drawn onto the pattern. So what I'm going to do now, the facing is obviously a separate piece, so we need to prepare a separate pattern piece for this. So I'm going to grab myself another bit of paper. And I'm going to trace off my facing. So I don't know if you can see that through the paper. I'm not sure that's coming through on the camera, but I am going to trace through this facing that I've drawn. Again, when I'm tracing pattern pieces, I like to use my curved ruler to draw along. It gives you a nice clean, sharp line. Pattern making isn't an art lesson. You don't want any freehand drawing. I also like to use my mechanical pencil, because again you get a very thin, accurate line. Centre front line, and when I put my ruler over the line I can't actually see where it is, so I've made a little mark on the paper and then I can see. So that's my new facing. Now remember and transfer all your markings whenever you create a new pattern piece. So just like the centre front, this piece would be cut on the fold. So there's my front fold line. I'm also going to label this piece, otherwise you may not know what it is. So it's front neck facing, I'm going to call it. And again, all the instructions that you would normally find on a facing. So it's going to be cut on the fold, cut one on fold, plus interfacing. Now interfacing is the fusible substance that you would iron onto the reverse side of the fabric. Now we need to put this new front facing would match to the back facing. So I need to put a notch mark a balance point where the two are going to be stitched together, just to make sure that I match these correctly. So that's my front facing piece, so I can go ahead and cut that piece out. What I'm going to do with this back piece is I don't need that round neckline anymore. So on the bodice I can get rid of the original line. So the red line is my new line. I can ignore the blue line because it's not doing any harm there. You could leave it on your pattern piece if you wish. It's probably safer taking it out because it may confuse you later and you may try to cut along this line. If I was doing this myself, I would just have done this in graphite pencil, not the coloured pencil, and it would easily be erased. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these pieces out. So I have my new bodice front section with the new neckline and a new front facing piece. Hello, I'm back. After I'd switched off the camera, I actually thought, well, what if you have a V-neck and you want to make a round neck or something is too low? So let me show you the reverse of that process. Now, first of all, I meant to mention, although this looks quite curved, when this is made up, it will actually sit like a V-neck. V-necks actually are very rarely angular. The straight line does not sit well against the human body. We are not rectangular, we are curved. So usually necklines are curved too, albeit very slightly. Anyway, if you had a neckline which was either too low or if it was the wrong shape, then you can make it a little bit bigger. So you would have to do this obviously on your paper pattern. Once you cut the fabric, you couldn't add a piece on. So I'm going to use a green pencil now. So draw a line continuing up from the centre front line. So this piece would be cut on the fold and the side where you wanted your new neckline. So I'm going to say I want it much higher. So let's continue up to here. And again, from the same shoulder point, maybe using my curve this way round, just look for a shape which looks pleasing to the eye. Now I'm making sure that this line intersects the centre front with a right angle. If you don't, you'll end up with odd little dip shapes. So the green line is my new neckline. So I would then draw a new facing. So I'm going to get my paper again. This is still the other piece. I'm going to grab some more paper, give me a second. Right, so I can trace off. So with some more paper, again, I don't know if, still don't know if you can see that through the camera. You can certainly see it quite clearly where I am. This is pattern making paper, as used in schools, colleges and pattern cutting rooms, the professional stuff. It's fairly sturdy, so it's stronger than tissue paper, but it can still be traced through quite easily. It's about 45 GSM. And I get this from Morplan, who are a supplier for the garment industry. So I'm going to trace off my outer neckline. Right, so that's my cutting line. My shoulder seam, or shoulder piece there. Now again, I want to make it, I'm going to go for 6 centimetres wide again. And this is my inner edge. Okay, just complete that, join the dots. Okay, I want this to meet the centre front 90 degrees. And there, just join it up, make sure that line is smooth. So that there is my new round neck facing. Now, again, on that with my pattern markings. So again, this would be cut in the centre front, on the fold, so on the fold, front facing, front neck facing. Again, this would be, you'd match the notch balance point with the back to make sure you match these lines up correctly. This is your stitching point here. 1.5 centimetres, and this is your stitching line round here on the neckline. This edge is inside the garment, so this can sit loose inside. That is how you do the reverse process, turning a low front V-neck or a low round neck into a higher round neck. So I hope you find that tip useful, and it'll save you a bit of money having to not buy any more patterns.